morning, I was taking a long walk in my hometown when I came upon a sign I had never seen before. It was up on a lamppost, Funnybone Alley. I was so pleased with such an odd name that I entered the alley and fell in love with it. There was nothing quite straight and nothing quite round. It was crooked as a wishbone. None of the houses were quite alike, and yet something drew them together. It was in the air and in the happy sound I heard. It came from a curly-haired boy on a high stoop while a group of boys and girls were playing games and building things.
I'm glad I've got a funny bone to tickle me when I'm alone, or help me laugh the blues away with neighbors young or old and gay here in Funnybone Alley. I'm glad I've got a lung or two to fill with air and then blow through with music sweet and full of care for honest people everywhere here in Funnybone Alley. I'm glad I've got a simple heart that never beats without some part in all we share and share for good, in liberty and brotherhood here in Funnybone Alley.
Suddenly, down the street came a crowd of boys who joined the boys in the alley and started them all dancing. And the greatest hijinks took place. It was like a circus with everyone doing different things at the same time. Grown-ups poked their heads out of doors and windows, for some of these boys were their boys. The alley was used to shenanigans.
When the boys came dancing down the street with the gayest gay green shoes on their feet, anything and anybody, everything and everybody, busybody, dizzy-body, stopped and stared. As each shinned up a fire escape, hand over hand, as slick as an ape, anything and anybody, everything and everybody, busybody, dizzy-body, hopped and glared. When they batted a ball through your front room and kicked a football over the moon and scooted across a sliding pond from here to yonder and far beyond, anything and anybody, everything and everybody, busybody, dizzy-body, grew gray-haired. Then down the alley came a big parade, kites and streamers and pink lemonade. The boys whizzed up in a model plane and clean forgot to come down again. And anything and anybody, everything and everybody, busybody, dizzy-body, no longer cared.
There was one dark little boy who didn't join the others in their gay party. He was sitting all alone. He was poorly dressed, but that didn't matter here. And he didn't have any toys, not the fancy kind, but that didn't matter either. For he was the dreamy kind who live on dreams. And he could get even better things by making them up himself.
I love all the clouds that go sailing away, and I'd love to be one of the ships for a day in a sea that is blue as the sky is today. Today. I'd love to go riding the wind or a breeze and ripple a stream or pass over the seas and land on an island, the island of peace, of peace. I'd love to come home with the stars in the night and give every fellow a little more light and hold out my hand to him, then say good night, good night.
The grown-ups also had a happy air in Funnybone Alley and mixed with the children like children themselves. Nobody seemed to grow old or to know he was old. And this was true of the shopkeepers most of all. They had the gayest signs on their windows, and they also sang. Jingles that had lots of meanings, or meanings that had lots of jingles. And one felt right away how kind these shopkeepers were. They must have learned long ago that the alley wasn't rich with money, but in love and affection. Well, here they came.
If you find a fish that's flatter than flat, and then a fish that's flatter than that never grew round and can never grow rounder, it's likely to be a flounder. If you can't grab it to save your soul, or just as you nab it, it runs down a hole, you can tell from this habit it isn't a mole, but much more likely a rabbit. If your pants grow short or in need of menders, or if your belts are no longer dependers, it's neither your fault nor the fault of your vendors. The things you need now are suspenders. If all you have is one mere nickel, don't let a tear begin to trickle, since you can buy a great big pickle or half a loaf of plum per nickel. If all you have is but a penny, or if you find you haven't any, just take what you like, it may be funny, but I want your love, not your money.
Funnybone Alley had a little park, and the little park had a zoo. And never a day went by that the children didn't visit the zoo. For here were some old friends, too, in all shapes and sizes and from all over the world. The children would say to the animals, "What can you do?" And the animals in the Funnybone Zoo performed their special tricks. They talked and sang to the children, and the language they used was the same as ours.
There are beasts on view at the Funnybone Zoo. The crocodile. I came many a day and many a mile after men dragged me out of the Nile, but nothing can alter an old crocodile, and that's why I show all my teeth when I smile. Oh, come, let's go to the Funnybone Zoo to see the giraffe. I've caused people to grin and children to laugh, since the neck I have on runs a yard and a half from the back of my ears on the way to my toes, and the spots I have on can brighten my clothes. There's a friend for you at the Funnybone Zoo, the elephant. My eyes are small as a fly or an inch, but my trunk is as big as a rubber plant. What I see with the one, I can reach with the other, or step on just once without any bother. There's room for you at the Funnybone Zoo. Taking a look at the monkeys, we chatter no matter how bitter or sweet. The monkeys we search for the fleas that we eat, and the manner we hang by our tails like a grape is another small trick no human can ape.
One of the girls must have felt that this was the time for a doll to go to sleep, for she had a doll in a tiny carriage. She bent over the doll, and his eyes were wide open. "Oh, dear," she said, "what shall I do? You're a bad little boy." A golden-haired girl came over and asked, "What's the matter?" "I want him to sleep, and he just won't shut a single eye." "Have you tried a lullaby?" "I don't know one." "You want me to try?" "Yes. If the boys will be quiet, I'll sing to the child."
Bad boy this and bad boy that, if you don't lie still on mother's lap, a big green boy this, good boy that. Now you're still on mother's lap. Little white dove will come for you with his ballyboo, ballyboo. His little soft voice will warn you through. Ballyboo, ballyboo, ballyboo. Best for this, best for that. Now one eye closed, the other will shut, and far away moonbeam will come for you with his ballyboo, ballyboo. His faraway voice will lead you through. Ballyboo, ballyboo, ballyboo.
With all the different things kids do in a day, you'd think their heads would pop off, but they never do. Even when they grow tired of one thing, there's always another. And so when the shopkeepers left, they turned to something else. Just then the clock began to chime. He had to tell the time. That was his job. He didn't want to be mean to the children, but he sounded mean, counting 1, 2, 3 with his steady chime. The curly-haired boy sang a song to put an end to this, but Mr. Clock went right on, all the way to 11 and 12.
Mr. Clock, I can hear you round the block. Must you come? Can't I stay? Is it time to go away? Mr. Clock, can't you stop your old tick-tock? If you came some other time, that would hardly be a crime. When you whir, when you chime, you send shivers down my spine.
Things didn't always go right for the alley cat, who prowled around at night and never found enough to eat and had to sleep outdoors. It was on a snowy night with the wind blowing that the cat first found the alley and saw many warm houses with cheerful lights and stoves inside. Well, he just took a chance and jumped through the nearest window, and there he found a real home and never had to stray again.
With the rickety, rackety, rat-tat-tat, the window blew open and in bounced a cat, frozen with snooping about in the street, with much more snow than fur on his feet. His whiskers were longer than whisks of brooms, his eyes clear and green as the moon's, a dozen black stripes traced around his tail, his nose all pink from the wind and the gale. He flew like a kangaroo straight to the stove where the coals were bouncing and dancing with love, and there he curled himself snug as a snail from the knot on his nose to the tip of his tail. We heard him singing a lazy song, now that I've found the place I belong. If these strange people would treat me nice, I'll rid them of terrible things like mice, and help them to clean up each tiny platter of leftover things that don't really matter.
Now an old friend came along with a cart laden with junk and old clothes, and he had a couple of cowbells to let you know he was coming. You might have thought he had enough junk without coming round for more, but no, here he was, chanting his lively air. The window opened, and a woman called, "I've got a pair of old shoes. How much do you offer?" "Let me see them first." Before you knew it, other windows opened, and other women offered pots and pans, a chair with 3 legs, a pitcher without a handle. And up and down ran the children, over and over. And the man said to his horse, 'All right, Jack, next stop.'"
Hello, my cash so close. And have you any bottles to sell, or pots and pans, or an old cracked bell, or a busted broom, or a rubber hose? Hello, hello, I cash so close. And when they're through, then I begin to buy your copper and brass and tin. So open your window and call me in. Goodbye, farewell, I've paid you well. And now you can buy a nice new suit, or a rose for your hat, or fancy fruit, or a horn for the boy, or a penny flute.
The greatest thing about the alley was its friendly air. Although the grown-ups and children weren't all born here, many came from foreign countries and quietly settled down. At night, when labor and play were over, they all got together and sang the song that meant so much to them, the friendly song. Overhead, the stars came out and the moon as well, and they seemed to listen.
Now here we are in Funnybone, and no one for himself alone. The grocer, butcher, cat and mouse, the children snug in any house, the junk man's cart, the peddler's cry, and friendly neighbors passing by, where everyone is right at home. And none of us are quite the same in shape or color, race or name, yet there is no one that we fear, since we can join each other here and be good pals throughout the day in things that never pass away, where everyone is right at home. And if you have a funny bone, don't keep it to yourself alone, for it was made for all to share, not only here but everywhere, across our land and every sea, in brotherhood and liberty, where everyone is right at home.